years at Keynote, you are a cybersecurity engineer, specialist in private and public sectors, and you cover fields as wide as biometrics, border control, infrastructures, electronic identities, and now space within CGI Germany. Let's talk about post-quantum cryptography. The floor is yours. The device is right there.
Wonderful.
And,
thank you, Margot.
I'll be there for questions afterwards.
Okay, great. So good morning, everyone. My name is Jens, and today I would like to give you some overview and some ideas for future directions in the field of post-quantum cryptography. So I need to figure out how it works first. Okay, so I see. This talk will be split into 4 parts. I would like to create some context first of what I'm talking about, actually. Then we will discuss the actual impacts on cryptography due to quantum computing developments. Finally, I would like to discuss the current state of developments and, of course, provide some ideas for future outlook, preparations, and how one can prepare for the post-quantum age. I will, thank you. Good, okay. So for quite some time, one is confronted in media and news with the term quantum. Sometimes it's understood as a solution, sometimes as a problem, and sometimes it's both. And it's not always clear to everybody what it's related to. So to give some understanding of what this talk will be covering, I would like to discuss a few terms. So cryptography is a means to protect our information and communication in our day-to-day IT usage. Then there is 2 fields relying on the properties of quantum particles and quantum physics. We had a talk yesterday about it, and this is a specific different field, and those terms may not be conflated. And we have the field of post-quantum cryptography. And those are the means which are protecting our assets against attacks from classical computers, so those that we have already today, and from quantum computers. And one usually speaks of cryptographically relevant quantum computers when discussing post-quantum cryptography and how to protect for that. And if you would ask me how to summarize the developments in the recent years and looking ahead, I think it comes down to uncertainties. There is this tweet from Daniel J. Bernstein. He's a cryptographer. He's been working in the field of post-quantum cryptography as well. And he and a colleague of his made a bet about how RSA will be broken. And RSA is a means protecting our digital identities, digital certificates. It's used in communication protocols. It's used basically everywhere where we use crypto in our infrastructures, in communication and various means. And whether be it with factorization using a classical computer or a quantum computer, doesn't really matter because the impact will be huge. It will be crazy. So this is what it's all about. So why do we use cryptography? We want to protect information and assets. You want to have some assurance for integrity of exchanged information. You want to be sure who you communicate with, be it machine to machine, human to machine, and of course, related to transactions between entities, you want to have some accountability and non-repudiation for such transactions. And to achieve such, it's basically coming down to 2 types of cryptographic schemes. So you have symmetric cryptographic schemes where you have a shared secret between 2 entities which use them to apply such. And an example would be AES, was established about 20 years ago and it's widespread in use. And then there is asymmetric schemes. So they provide some means to establish a secret key, which can be used for symmetric encryption, for example. And those asymmetric schemes rely on specific mathematical problems. So integer factorization and discrete logarithm problem. And those problems are still assumed to be hard to be solved on a classical computer, but hard to be solved, easy to be solved on a quantum computer. And this is basically due to the fact that about 30 years ago, there was a paper published by Love K. Grover, and using this algorithm on a quantum computer, which is capable enough, It also has some effects on, oops, I think I clicked twice, sorry, has effects on symmetric crypto. But symmetric crypto won't be affected as asymmetric crypto, so it will be having some effects facilitating exhaustive key search, so finding the right key to potentially weakening the symmetric scheme here. And it comes down to reducing the effective security level of symmetric schemes. I'm not sure why it skipped. Okay. This can be countered by just doubling the length of keys, and currently one expects that symmetric keys will remain safe, even though there will be at some point cryptographically relevant quantum computers. And it's a totally different story for asymmetric schemes, because there is paper written by Shaw 3 decades ago. And this paper provides some ideas for an algorithm. And when this algorithm is run on a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, it's assumed to break specifically the mathematical problems which asymmetric crypto schemes rely on today. And what will be affected is signatures, providing for authenticity for various means. Public key encryption for key encapsulation, for example. And of course, key establishment schemes, so the good old Diffie-Hellman will be affected. And this is the problem everybody's really talking about. And yeah, so let's see what might be the impact when it will be broken on cryptography. And if you have a look at the right-hand side of the slide, it shows some stack how it comes all together. And here we see on the lower layers, you need to find new mathematical problems which are understood to be hard enough to provide for security for informational assets. Those building blocks need to be somehow standardized and agreed upon to have some interoperability for communication means. Imagine you have a browser, open a website, and TLS handshake failed because standard is not adhered to. And of course, such things, depending on the use case and fields of application, need to be standardized somehow. And this is also something entails work and lots of time. And finally, of course, you want those libraries, for example, in the field at some point in time. And it takes time to do so, to distribute some. And so, in effect, lots of layers need to be touched, lots of work will to be done in the next years. And to give you a better understanding of some threat scenarios, so what happens if there will be a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, but not the cryptographic means to protect against? And so the first threat scenario would be a public key infrastructure, so the means to protect, to provide some means for authenticity and checking, providing trust in a system. And in this scenario, we have Mallory. So she's an adversary. She has access to a quantum computer at some point in time. Imagine a quantum computer publicly available via an API. You pay a few dollars for it, and you just get access to some computing power and computing time. And public key cryptography basically relies on public information. But this public information also contains the lead to the private or secret information. And using the quantum computer and applying Shaw's algorithm, in effect, Mallory would be able to obtain the private key. She then can, yeah, so this works, okay. She then can sign and issue certificates however she wants. So smart cards would be affected, for example. You couldn't have any more trust in signed code, for example. And this is quite an impact on the root of trust provided by a PKI. As another scenario are forged signatures, for example. So signatures provide for authenticity and communication. And here we have Alice and Bob. They exchanged on a regular basis some emails, for example. And Mallory would like to impersonate Alice towards Bob to forge some business transaction, for example. And here it's basically the same principle. maybe different algorithm, but still asymmetric, one of the current ones. And she has access to a quantum computer, uses the implementation of Shor's algorithm on it, and then is able to obtain the private key again. And she can, using this, write an email, hash it, sign it, and in effect break the objectives of information security here. And the third threat scenario I would like to show you is harvest now, decrypt later, sometimes is also referred to store now, decrypt later. And in this scenario, you have some sites communicating over a public channel. And this channel is protected with IPsec, TLS, for example. So currently, strong cryptographically mechanisms. And what Mallory knows is between those sites, information is being exchanged. Information which has a security need for protection, for example, for 10 years. And Mallory knows at some point there will be quantum computers possible. What she does is eavesdrop information in public internet, for example, in internet access nodes. This would be possible. And she stores this encrypted data in large data centers. Storage is cheap, so that's what she does. And at some point in time, quantum computer will be accessible and usable. She just gets the key handshakes of the IKE protocol of IPsec, and then is able to decrypt the symmetric session key, decrypt the payload, and then can reveal the secret information. And this is something one needs to take into consideration. Regarding the timing, so nobody is really sure when a quantum computer will be ready and available. Some national security agencies, such as the BSI, for example, expects for the 2030s for such a quantum computer to be available. But it depends, of course, on the threat actors. And there's Michel-Mosca's theorem, which defines 3 variables. So X is a timing. You need your informational assets to be secured. For example, so 10 years we had in the previous scenario. Y is the time you need your infrastructure and your IT components and network components to migrate to post-quantum cryptography. And Z is the time when your threat actor interested in your informational assets is able to access such a quantum computer. And if both times combined, so added, is greater than Z, it's the worst case. So your informational assets aren't protected anymore. And this is something one needs to understand and also discuss, okay, where are my assets? How long is the time I want them to protect them? However, in the meantime, NIST has been preparing some standards. We learned from it yesterday in the post-quantum crypto talk. And they started in 2016 for a global call for propositions for new algorithms. And throughout the 3-round challenge, various algorithms fall out of this challenge due to the evaluation criteria, cost, so computational cost, memory, power consumption, and of course clock cycles, for example. And the second one would be interoperability. So how easy is it to implement a new algorithm in existing protocols? You don't want to reinvent the wheel. You just want to replace the algorithm here and use it in existing protocols. And finally, of course, security. You want informational assets to be as secure as today against classical and quantum computers. So by end of last year, the first standards have been published. So there's an open review. They're currently undergoing a performance evaluation, interoperability test from various vendors. And this is something which is developing, and one can expect for 2024 for the first standardized quantum secure algorithms. But as usual in crypto, it's quite complicated. So due to the fact that post-quantum crypto is rather young, it's definitely more complicated than integer factorization or discrete logarithm problem. It entails some complexity. And throughout the NIST challenge, This was shown due to various weaknesses in algorithms, in implementations, some channel attacks on hardware implementations. And if you read the news last week, there was a published paper for an algorithm for a quantum computer, which was proposed to break lattice-based cryptographic schemes. So, for example, Kyber, which is one of the NIST candidates. And this was quite an impact on the cryptographic community. But after peer review and discussion and some findings, there was a bug found in this algorithm, and so it was quite a good outcome after some first irritations here. But generally, those are some concerns one needs to consider before adopting too early. And here it comes to the hybrid approach. So what's crucial is to understand there's time needed. You want to gain trust and confidence in algorithms. And you still need some way forwards. You can't stay at the same level of security with the confronting time that quantum computers will be at some point there. And the idea is to apply both algorithms in parallel, and this effectively reduces the assets because both schemes would need to be broken. It has its downsides, of course. It provides additional layers of complexity, which is not usually security's friend. And of course, additional computing costs, which needs to be considered for constraints platforms, so such as embedded platforms, which we saw yesterday. To give an idea how it works on a high level, so for hybrid key establishment, you apply both schemes in parallel, so elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman, you have some kind of the some variant of the key establishment mechanisms from the post-quantum side. You use both outcomes of such a protocol in a key derivation function, and this can then be used for symmetric encryption, for example, in TLS. And there are currently drafts of IETF for TLS, for IKE as part of IPsec. And this is, I think, personally, where the road goes. As for hybrid signatures, it's basically the same principle. You have a piece of information you want to be signed. It's being computed in the two kinds of signature algorithms, post-quantum and classical, and those signature values need to be verified on the receiver's end. Of course, you need to verify both via an AND combination to have the certainty everything is set and fine here. So the world usually doesn't develop as fast as it should be sometimes, because once something is out there, it takes time to get it updated. And I think some comparison of older situations we had in this field is quite interesting. So hash algorithm SHA-1 was standardized in the last century. There was a predecessor a few years later that, and in 2011, NIST actually deprecated SHA-1 for using it for signing digital certificates due to some theoretical attacks, increased computing power, and this led 5 years later about that the CA and Browser Forum said, okay, we don't use SHA-1 anymore for signing certificates. Closely after that, excuse me, there was a shattered attack, so basically the first collision for SHA-1, and this is the dead end for a hash algorithm, and shortly after that, browsers stopped using that. And this is a time span of 6 years from a candidate is available, which provides more security, until the point in time where in the field it gets adopted, or it gets deprecated, and then the new variant is adopted. And yeah, we think it's best to be prepared, to not wait and wait until at some point it's too late. So being prepared entails knowing where you use your crypto in your infrastructures. It covers various cryptographic assets. So HSMs, for example, you have encryption tools in email communication, in chat tools. You need to know where do we have issued certificates which are trusted within the infrastructure, and some certificates have a long lifetime, and this needs to be somehow managed in an inventory so that you are aware of it. And you can use this as input for further planning, for risk management, understanding what's exposed to public networks, what's internally only. And this allows you for prioritization when the time comes and you need to identify actual migration paths for your infrastructure components, and to identify the critical components first, tackle that, and then proceed step by step, replacing all your old crypto with post-quantum secure crypto. And this covers software, hardware components, everything crypto is being embedded into. Then for new implementations, it's crucial to understand that NIST will provide various algorithms. It's not like in the 2000s, for example, where there will be one AES, which is one candidate of this challenge, but various algorithms. And nobody knows for sure how secure they are. So you want to be able to replace an algorithm at some point in time when it's understood to be too weak or broken. And this is some requirement. This should be relevant for any new developments, we think. So to wrap this talk up, we think it's good to be informed. It's a fast-paced world. It's fastly developing, looking to the events of last week, for example. And one should consider quantum computing and, of course, quantum cryptography, post-quantum cryptography. And lots of national security agencies have their own mini web pages providing actual information, mostly related to the NIST challenge, but still someone needs to have this covered and understand what's currently going on and what's your stake is here. Then this cryptographic inventory is something one can tackle now. It's an effort. You can do this manually. You can do this via discovery mechanisms in the network, for example, or based on code analysis. So where is it implemented? Where's crypto embedded? Which protocols? Which cipher suites in protocols? Which web servers? And so on. This can already be tackled now. Use this for risk management. Understand, okay, what are threat actors? What threat to my assets are actually there? And then, of course, plan ahead. No, there won't be one algorithm. There will be multiple. You want to be able to replace them in the life cycle of your IT assets. And, of course, don't swap, do the hard switch over, rely on hybrid crypto. This is also an outcome of the NIST performance evaluation. It shows some, for example, for TLS, the performance overhead isn't too bad, but of course it depends on your components, on constraints, and so on. But generally, the hybrid approach, we think, is the way to go. And of course, don't panic. It's generally a good idea. And don't think it's too easy. There is not this one-fits-all solution, not a quantum panacea if you made Corso, but it's an effort. It's a long-term effort to be prepared for the post-quantum age. Yeah, so this is what it from my side, and I think we have a few minutes left, right? And yeah, thanks for your attention. And if you have any questions, let's go ahead.
Thank you very much, Jens. Please have a seat. Thank you for a very comprehensive presentation. Approaches, I appreciate the efforts of definition and scenario to defeat the evil Mallory. We have questions from the room. First one from Hayden Reisenbach. He asks, do the NIST algorithm cover symmetric encryption as well? In the harvest now, decrypt later situation, AES is already broken by a key exhaustion algorithm by a powerful enough QC.
So to cover the first question first, so NIST only so the NIST post-quantum challenge covers asymmetric algorithms only because they will be mostly affected by quantum computers based on Shor's algorithm. So current assumption and understanding is for symmetric algorithms, the impact will be not that big, and therefore this is not covered by NIST, NIST activities. However, I see in the second question there might be some misunderstanding. So AES is not broken, won't be broken by quantum cryptography, but using asymmetric crypto to protect or to establish symmetric cryptographic keys, this is a chain one needs to take in consideration. So AES is not broken, and this is a no to the second question, I think. Yeah. Mm.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from Cesar Carmona Tapia. He asks, on project requiring the use of certified cryptos on the satellites, what would you recommend today to an operator or a manufacturer regarding crypto agility? What do you think is the impact of recertifying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting question. So we at CGI, we basically cover the fields of the ground segment, actually. And I think the talk yesterday from the colleague covering embedded systems, so implementing cryptographic mechanisms for embedded systems, is the right colleague to answer such a question. However, I think it will take some time for standardization. So like I said, in 2024, the first algorithms will be standardized, then there will be need to certifications. So for example, FIPS certification, and this will be some time. And regarding satellites, so what's up in space is not easily being replaced. So this is a very tough topic. I think there is not some clear or definitive answer on it, and this is entailing some future work. So maybe an open answer to that, yeah?
Yeah, works ahead. Another question from Mathieu Bailly. We remain in space industry. What would be the impact of PQC for satellites in terms of power, latency, etc.?
Yeah. So this talk from yesterday, we saw there's some room for optimization. So it's usually a trade-off for memory consumption, computing power, so power cycles, and the needed time to compute signatures, perform encryption of data streams. And this is usually a trade-off. So the current NIST performance evaluations were one on, if I recall correctly, on a common x64 Intel CPU. So there are no specific results for embedded platforms. And I think this is something we will see in the next months. Once there will be standardized algorithms, the first implementers are currently working on specific implementations, and then they can be benchmarked. And this will be very interesting, I think, to see how do they perform, how do they compete towards each other. And I think in my slide I've linked the NIST report on the performance evaluation. It gives some idea. So like I mentioned briefly, for TLS, for example, using Kyber and an elliptic curve algorithm in a hybrid mode, the overhead is not too much. But yeah, of course, it depends. For signatures, it's a different story, as we saw yesterday in the talk of Crypto Next. And yeah, so we will see where the road goes. Yeah?
Okay. And a last question from Oliver Germer. How would you approach the QC migration topic for long-lived assets in space?
Yeah. So this is an interesting question because long-lived, I think we're talking about 10 years and more, and this is quite complicated, even regarding the uncertainties we are currently working with. And yeah, one needs to take into consideration you need to replace at some point in time algorithms. Nobody knows for sure how long they will remain secure, so be able to provide for cryptographic agility, foresee some abstraction layer in implementing crypto on embedded systems, and the migration of legacy systems is a totally hard topic. So for ground systems, one can imagine this is not too hard, but for space systems, this is really hard. I don't have an answer. Yeah? Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes it's good to live with questions rather than fixed answers. It allows more creativity in the room too. Thank you very much, Jens Ander. I will invite you to give me your microphone and leave the stage. I think we can give you another warm round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you, Margot.